What we're going to learn today is using trigonometric ratios to calculate side lengths. So the question that we're going to do is calculate the length of the indicated side. And in this question, it's indicated by a question mark. So we want to find out what's the length of that side. Does anybody have a way to do that already? Because we have two side lengths, you could use the Pythagorean theorem here to find this. But what I'm going to do is pretend that we only have one side length. I'm going to say, if we wanted to, we could use the Pythagorean theorem to find that side. But what if we just don't have that side length? And all we have is the 24 and this angle of 73.74. Then we need, well, and also the right angle, right? Remember what I said yesterday? It always has to be a right angle triangle. If we only have that much information, then we need something other than the Pythagorean theorem. And that's where these ratios, sine, cosine, and tangent, come in. So the way that they're going to work is you look at the angle that you have, which is here, this theta. Look at the side that you know. What would you call that 24 centimeters? Opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? Opposite. So let's just put a little O there for opposite. And look at the side length that you're trying to find. What would you call that one? Hypotenuse. Once you've figured out what side length you're trying to find and which one you know, you're going to be able to decide whether you want to use sine, cosine, or tangent. We have to choose the one that has opposite and hypotenuse in it. So which of those ratios are you going to choose? Sine, right. So I'm just going to write it down here first. Sine of the angle equals opposite over hypotenuse. That's really the most important step, is deciding which one you're going to use. Once you do that, it's just filling in numbers and solving. But if you choose the wrong one, then you're going to get the wrong answer. You need to figure it out. And you do that, like I said, by figuring out which side length you already know and which one are you trying to find. And then you choose the appropriate ratio. Once you've chosen it, then you can fill in the information that you know. I actually know what theta is, the angle. It's 73.74. And I know what the opposite side is. It's 24. And I'm just going to put an X for hypotenuse because that's the thing that's unknown. That's what I want to find. Next thing we need to do is solve for X. And we did something like this on the first day. Or you guys did. I kind of came around and watched what you were doing. I want to get the X by itself in this equation. And basically with these simple trig equations, you're going to do always going to do one of two things. This one, I'm going to multiply by X on both sides of the equation. Multiply by X. And that cancels this X out. We're left with X multiplied by sine 73.74 equals 24. And to get X by itself, because it's multiplied here, I need to divide. So then I'm going to go divide by sine 73.74. Divide by sine 73.74. This is basic algebra, which we're going to work a lot on this year, but not yet. Right now, it's basically just a number of steps that you follow. I'm not going to give you anything different than this, but what ends up happening is the sine 73.74 is gone from there, and we get X equals 24 divided by sine 73.74. Once you punch that into your calculator, you end up with X equals 25 centimeters. Here's another question that's similar. Calculate the length of the indicated side. And this time, I'm going to just black out that number. So we have 48 here. We have 48.89 as the angle, and we're trying to find this side. To decide which trig ratio you're going to use, you need to look at which side do you know and which side are you trying to find. So if the angle that we know is here, then we're trying to find this, which is opposite the angle. Opposite. And we know the 48, and that's adjacent right next to the angle. We don't want to do anything with the hypotenuse. So we need to look at the ratios and say which one has adjacent and opposite. And the answer is tangent. So we're going to do tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. So I'll do tangent of the angle, which is 48.89, equals opposite, I don't know, I'm going to call it an x, over adjacent, which is 48. The value that we're trying to find here is on the top. So this one's actually kind of easier to do than the other one, because all I have to do is multiply by 48 here and here. That 48 cancels out, and we get x equals 48 times tangent of 48.89. So the difference really is that this one you're going to multiply, whereas the other one you had to divide. And you're going to start to see the pattern of when you multiply and when you divide as you go through a number of these. Once you punch that into your calculator, you get x equals 55 centimeters. The sketch on the right was drawn by a surveyor who was trying to determine the distance between two trees across a river. This is the actual kind of work that a surveyor would do. Now, a lot of it now is digital, so the measurements that they're taking and stuff are digital, and they can just, they don't necessarily have to do a lot of calculations on their own, but this is the kind of thing that a surveyor would do. So, trying to figure out the distance across the river between these two trees, but you can't just measure it, right? Because there's a river in between. So instead, the surveyor chose a point to stand at, measured the distance to one tree, and then measured the angle when the line of sight is to the other tree. And it says to calculate the distance between the trees. So that blue line is what we're trying to find. So if you look at this, that's a right angle. This is just the same kind of question. I'm going to put an X there because that's what we're trying to find. But it gives us an angle, a side length, and a side that we're trying to find. So just like before, except that this one has some words, right? Still the same kind of question. Who thinks they know whether we should use sine, cosine, or tangent? Tangent, right. Is that you, Michael? Yeah. Why did you decide to use tangent?
Because I labeled the sides.
Okay. No, that's good. Right, you labeled them like that. Opposite is the unknown. Adjacent is the one you know. So that tells you use tangent. So we'll fill in the information. Tangent of 46 degrees, that's the angle, equals opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 80. So just filling in numbers to replace the symbols. And then multiply by 80. And we end up with x equals 80 multiplied by tangent of 46 degrees, which you can do on your calculator, and you get 83 meters.